So this list right here, I'll never understand the YouTube algorithm, has completely changed in the last year, so let's do this again. Hello all of my otaku friends, my name is Profitaku and welcome back to my channel for this new manga video. Today we're doing my top 10 manga of all time, but this is the 2023 edition. The 2022 edition is just a little bit outdated. Before we get into the top 10, I do want to say 5 to 11, we have Dead Demons, Destruction, Aria the Masterpiece, Yotsuba, Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, and Made in Abyss. All of these series I hide in that number 10 spot, a returner from last year. However, they did move down several places, but they're just good enough to stay in that top 10, and that is A Silent Voice. This is a 7-volume series from Kodansha Comics, and it's a redemption story. It follows this boy right here as he tries to redeem himself from his terrible actions in elementary school as read, and it really made an impact on me with its depiction of bullying, the way that it treated disabilities, and how we should be able to treat others with respect and kindness. In terms of a complete package story, it's concise but thorough as well. There's lots of development with characters, and we get to see a full story without it just being dragged on. It's been really interesting seeing other people read this in the last couple years and seeing their complaints about the series. I think that the mangaka did it in that way because that's the type of emotion they want us to feel. They want us to feel that anger towards these characters. They're just absolutely despicable, and we should never be like them. Silent Voice is an absolutely beautiful manga and a great starter manga for somebody to really dive into that rabbit hole of different manga stories. In the number 9 spot is another returner. However, this one fell the most out of any of the manga on last year's list. We have Naoki Urasawa's 20th Century Boys 24-volume series published by Viz Media. This story follows a group of friends in their childhood. They have a little club and they make a symbol to symbolize their friendship. Fast forward to adulthood, there's a murder, and at the murder scene is that same symbol from that childhood club. Thus starts this snowball effect of conspiracy theories as these group of friends try to figure out what's going on. I did a whole video reviewing every single one of Naoki Urasawa's manga, so I will leave a little card in the upper right hand corner so that you can check that video out if you want very comprehensive thoughts on all of the Naoki Urasawa manga. But what I will say about 20th Century Boys is that when I was reading it, the big thing that stuck out to me was the world. It's just so you want. Conspiracy theories, cults, changing the future, historical events. It's really, really interesting, and that's what made this manga into my top 10. Is it conclusive? It's up for you to decide, but nonetheless, it's about the journey from out of left field, and that is Sweat and Soap. This is an 11-volume series from Kodansha, and it follows this girl right here who's a chronic sweater. She's really self-conscious about her sweat, and she works at a soap company and uses their products to hide the stench. One day she meets this guy right here, and this guy is the head soap developer at this soap company. He's in charge of making all the scents, and he's really attracted to her specific scent. Thus starts this really interesting but beautiful relationship. So I've talked about this series like 3 different times on my channel, and let me just tell you a couple things about this. Number 1, the whole fetish of sweating, it's present in the manga, but the way that they use it is of dealing with this more than the fetish part of it. And that's why I really like this series, because they approach it in a very wholesome manner. They don't take it in this really gross direction. The other thing I'll say about this series is that this is a perfect encapsulation of a healthy adult relationship. I love our 2 main characters, especially our male MC. The way that he treats her is just absolutely beautiful, and I learned quite a bit reading this manga, just in terms of looking out for other people, making sure that they feel comfortable, making sure you're treating a woman correctly. It really made an impact on me. There are several points that I actually teared up a bit. Of course, there's a few problems with this series, specifically adding in events that don't do anything to the story and just cause drama for the sake of drama, but it's okay because the overall package is very well done, very conclusive ending, great cast of characters. Highly recommend this rom-com series. In the number, So-Called Artist Journey. This story follows follows Akiko Higashimura, the creator of Princess Jelly. When I read the last 2 volumes of this manga, I've never had a manga make me feel emotions as strong as this one. And honestly, the only reason why it's not higher on this list is because it's only 5 there in the first place. But even though this is an autobiographical manga, it's a perfect encapsulation of comedy, blue period, to be honest with you. In that number 6 spot, just missing out on the top 5, is the only sports manga on this list and one of the very few shonen on this list as well. We have middle school, as he wants to start a volleyball club after seeing the little giant play on the TV. After a tumultuous game against Kageyama, a setter on the other middle school team, he goes into high school at Kurisano. He's hoping to start his high school career, and there he sees Kageyama on the same team. What I love about this sports series is that it's just unpredictable. You're going through these volleyball games, you're seeing all the different action sequences going on, and you just don't know what's gonna happen, and that's what makes this series super fun. This manga has a humongous cast of characters, so many different teams, so many really important side characters in this series, but they're all written expertly well, and you're attached. You have a large cast of characters, it can get a little bit distracted, or some characters just don't get shelled out before they're thrown away, but this one really does a great job with that. There was only one arc in here where I was like, this is a little bit too long, but overall, in terms of a complete package from beginning, middle, and end, we have phenomenal character development, phenomenal action, and one of the best endings that I've read in all of manga. So if you're looking for a feel-good coming-of-age story that's gonna get your blood pumping, and you're really gonna be rooting for our Kurisano boys, highly recommend Haikyuu. This was such a fun read. All right, here we go with the top 5. This top 5 is insane. It's changed so much in the last year, so I cannot wait to talk about it. But in that number 5 spot, we have a series that's a returner from last year, Press, and it follows Sei Honda right here. He's a calligraphist, but he's kind of a hothead, a rural island, to kind of get his head and his career straight, and thus starts him living on this island, interacting with all the villagers. In terms of all the manga on this list, this is my favorite coming of age story. It's phenomenal to see Sei Honda and his character development and progression as he interacts with all the different villagers. He has a wall around his heart, and to see that wall getting chipped away is really heartwarming to see. Some people actually don't like this series because the comedy isn't really for them, and I definitely see where they're coming from, but I approach this series as a more coming of age slice of life series than a comedy series. But the reason why I'm personally attached to the comedy in this series is because of the cast of children characters. I love children in manga. I think they bring a lot to the story. They're super innocent, they're super hilarious, they get into really dumb hijinks, and this story definitely hits that box for me, so it's a lot of fun. When I was getting to the end of the series, I had just fallen in love with the cast of characters. I didn't want it to end. I just wanted it to keep going. I wanted to see our cast doing their country hijinks, and it just really broke my heart. I cried at the end of this one too. So Barakamon, it's in my top 5 for a reason. It's been in my top 5 for 2 years. If you're looking for a super chill, turn your brain off, coming of age story, highly recommend reading this with the soundtrack. It's just gonna put you in that beautiful island mood. Now here we go for the number 4 spot. This is definitely the biggest change in the top 5 because this used to be my number 1 favorite manga, but several series have overtaken it at this point, and that is Naoki Urasawa's Billy Bat. This is a 20-volume series following our main character, Kevin Yamagata, an American comic book writer who writes the story of Billy Bat. One day, I made Billy Bat. What do you mean you saw Billy in Japan? So he goes overseas to discover where did Billy Bat originate from. But this journey to discover Billy opens up this can of worms that is Billy Bat. We get conspiracy theories, we get changing of history, complete Naoki Urasawa work. It's got a very conclusive ending, it's got a very linear trajectory, and it doesn't get muddled and go in different directions. This also has just a really interesting premise coming from a comic book standpoint. As manga readers, it's just something that I really attach to. Billy Bat as a character just blew my mind and is honestly my favorite part of this story. To see his impact on not only this specific storyline, but what he's done through history, man, it is so cool. So if you're super in, it will fill that itch easily. All right, here we go with the top 3. A returner from last year's list, we have Great Teacher Onizuka. This is an out-of-print shonen series, 25 volumes from Tokyo Pop, and it follows Onizuka, who's a former delinquent who tries to become the best teacher in Japan. But of course, he's in his early 20s, he's a former delinquent, and he's a womanizer, so I mean, you can put the puzzle pieces together on how that's gonna work out. Look, really raunchy. There's definitely some inappropriate things that happen between teacher and student, which is why I can't really recommend it, but I do recommend it. But what I really love about this manga from an educator standpoint is how it depicts the Japanese education system, how Onizuka tries to go against that trend, and he's always looking out for his students. He's always trying to reach out and grab his students by the heartstrings and get them to buy into what he's trying to teach them. But I could not stop laughing with GTO. The series only got better with every arc, and this is one that I will never sell out of my collection. Top 2 time, this is where it gets real crazy because we've got 2 newcomers to the list. In that number 2 spot, we have Gakuen Babysitters. This is a shoujo manga series, 24 volumes, ongoing in Japan, not published in English, and it follows Kotaro and his older brother as they start their new life at an academy after their parents died in a plane crash. Kotaro's older brother is in charge of the daycare room, and he has to babysit 5 toddlers, including Kotaro. So this is the most recent read that I had in 2023, and it blew my mind, and this is the dictionary definition of what a slice of life manga should be. Yes, this manga is episodic, but the expertly well, and it's great to see all the different hilarious interactions between the adults, the teenagers, and the children. And even though there's no end goal with this series, this manga does a great job with adding very emotional, impactful moments that give you that character development very similar to a story that has an end goal story. I just think this is the cutest, and that's saying something for a slice of life manga, because usually there's some chapters I just don't really care about, but every single chapter in here I absolutely loved. I always knew when I well done. I highly recommend this series to you if you're looking for a shoujo series that's a little bit different and it's not a fluffy high school romance. And last but not least, my number 1. So our story follows 2 brothers. The younger one is an astronaut at JAXA and the older one is a car engineer. One day the older brother gets fired from his car engineer job, and that's the catalyst for him to go, I would like to fulfill my dream of going into space. I'm going to follow in the footsteps of my very interesting and unique past in the JAXA space program. This manga is my number 1 because of the inspiration it gave me in my own personal life. To see the trials and tribulations both brothers go through and the character development because of it, its story itself is so interesting and it's super comprehensive. You can tell that a lot of research went behind this in terms of the JAXA space training program, their interactions in space. The realism in this manga is 100%, and I was totally absorbed into it. Space itself is quite dangerous, and there are many heart-pumping moments in here where I was like, oh my gosh, what is about one character that I dislike? All of these characters have something to play in this series, and believe it or not, all the side characters have very shelled out backstories that really help to enhance the main story. Yes, it's big, but it's not distracting, which is a huge A+ for me. So if you're into space and you're into realistic sci-fi, this is the manga for you. Yes, it's digital only, but great life lessons from this series, and you will too. And that is it for my top 10 manga of all time, the 2023 edition. I hope this list stays consistent so I don't have to do this in 2024, but we'll see. As always, if you enjoy my videos, please hit that like button, tap the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you know when more of my videos come out, and I will see you in the next one. Take care now. Bye-bye.